Okay, well, hello. I hope that you guys are well. Today we are going to continue and we are going to move on to another probabilistic model, but in this case, the one that is named single period inventory model, as you can see on the screen. Before the exam, I recorded a lecture on this as very light introduction for you, and we are going to retake that introduction and review some exercises in order for you to be able to better understand how to make decisions when you have this particular scenario. Okay, so let's just remember a little bit what was it about. So the single period inventory model is useful when you have to place an order for a product that you cannot resell after a certain period of time. For example, a product that is mostly seasonal or newspapers, right, to be exaggerated, or a product that was created specifically for an event. Let's say, for example, that you want to know how much you should order for a t-shirt that you are going to use for a football match, and you know that after the match most likely people are not going to want to buy the t-shirt no more, unlikely as it would happen with another type of product, like let's say um, what a kitchen or a sofa, right, that it can be bought at any moment of time. That t-shirt that you printed will only have its full value when before or during the game. So this is a particular situation in which the traditional models are not that easy to use. So um, the another key aspect is that besides not being that easy to sell the product after the season has passed, if you manage to sell it, you are not going to be sell it at the same price. You will have to sell it at a lower rate, okay, or a lower price, which is something that is called um, salvage value per unit. Salvage value per unit is the price that you finally manage to sell the product after the main season of sale has passed, okay? In Spanish, this is called valor de salvamento. Okay, so pretty much our decision would be to know how much you need to order then in order not to have a lot of excess inventory that at the end you will not be able to sell at full price, okay? Now, um, in many of these products, the demand is never known precisely. Let's go back to our example of the t-shirt for the football event. It's pretty much impossible to make a 100% accurate forecast of how many t-shirts you expect to sell, but you can have an idea of how has been its average, how what I mean, if you have enough data, you can calculate in average how much you have sold, what is the standard deviation, and therefore you can associate a probability distribution to the demand, right? um, if a normal distribution is assumed, which tends to be the most likely thing to happen for the men's, then you can determine um, how much you have to order, making some easy calculations. In order to apply this model, you need to have, oops, I'm sorry. In order to apply this model, you need to have information about previous seasons. You need to know the mean and you need to know the standard deviation of the demand in the past. Okay, how many data points you should have? Well, I would say that at least 15 in order for you to be able to estimate both the mean and the standard deviation. Okay, but let's say that you do have that information and you assume a normal probability distribution, then there is a 50% chance if you, let's say, have 50 data points, okay, and you calculate the average of those 50 data points historical, then you would have an average demand. If you decide to buy for the next season exact the average demand that you calculated, you have a 50% chance that you would stock out and a 50% chance that you would have leftover trees. Because if you remember the normal distribution, something like this, right? So the mean is at the center. So imagine that this was your reality, that over time you calculate that you have sold a mean of 120 t-shirts. Okay, if you decide to buy for next football season exactly 120 t-shirts, you would have 50% chance of needing more, which would be stock out, right? Because you will be out of items, or you would have 50% chance of needing less. That means that you purchased too much, that you overstocked. Okay, so that's for you to have an idea. Now, the reality is that you are not going to order the mean, right? You need to determine how much you would order in order to minimize that probability of uh, both stock out and shortage, because each of the two represents different costs. How is that? The fact of underestimating the demand means that you have an opportunity cost, because there are units that you could have sold that you didn't. And the opportunity cost would be estimated as the sales price per unit minus the cost per unit. Okay, so it's pretty much the earning that you would have had per unit if you had more items purchased. Okay, now if you overestimate your demand, on the other hand, you would be losing money because you would be ending up with units that you are not going to be able to sell at a regular price. So how much are you losing? The cost per unit minus the salvage value, which is the discounted price. Both of them represent, in a sense, a cost of opportunity. The first one is a cost of opportunity for what you could have earned, and the other one is what you lost given the fact that you had to give your price your product at a discounted price. Okay, so that's the idea. So the service level, which is the probability of not stocking out, that means that every time a customer asks you if you have items, you say yes, is estimated in this model by dividing the cost of a stock out, the cost of shortage, I'm sorry, divided by the cost of shortage plus the cost of overage. Okay, this is a probability. Okay, this is a probability. And what you want to do is that you want to consider increase your order quantity until your service level is this or more. Okay, let's just work on an example if you want. It will work on a second example. So let's calculate those costs just to have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So let's see the exercise. It says Franz Beckman is selling sausages at the local soccer games in Poland. History has shown that in average 190 are sold with a standard deviation of 34. He purchases the sausages for 25 cents and sells them for $2 each. Sausages not sold will be given away for free to the players. How many sausages should we purchase in order to maximize profit? First of all, what you have to do when you are presented with a problem is that you have to analyze if you can already use a model of the ones that you know. So if let's read it carefully and see what are the characteristics that this has that would make you realize that you need to use the formulas that we have been discussing. So here, for example, you see that the product is seasonal. You cannot know exactly how many sausages are going to be needed. And you know that after the game is over, okay, after the soccer game season is over, uh, according to what it says here, you will not be able to sell those sausages. So you will be giving them away for free. So you will be losing money for all that stock you got into that you would not be able to sell. And that makes sense. I mean, if it's something that it's perishable, you cannot wait until next season to consume those products. I mean, they will be already rotten. So you better give them away, not to throw them to trash, right? So it's different on comparing this to, let's say, a non-perishable good like a t-shirt, or like, well, even a t-shirt would be similar, but like a sofa or something like that, that if you don't sell it, you can resell it later on, right? Here you cannot resell in another time, okay? Or if you were to resell, you would sell at a very low price. In this case, the resale price is zero pretty much because they would give them away for free, right? So what is the first thing we need to do? So the first thing we need to do after we have identified that this is pretty much a single period inventory model is to estimate both the cost of shortage and the cost of overage, okay? So let us begin with the cost of shortage. This is how much money would cost you if you order less than what you really need, given your demand, okay? This is the opportunity cost of not having enough product to fulfill your orders, okay? So how are we going to estimate this? The cost uh, would be calculated by deducting from the sales price the cost per unit. So the sales price, if you see, is $2, okay? And the cost per unit, I'm going to mark it here, this is the $2, and the cost per unit is 25 cents, okay? This is 1.75. Now, let's analyze this value. What is this? This is the cost of opportunity. It's the profit that you would have had if you were not left without stock. Okay. In Spanish, es lo que ustedes ganarían por cada unidad vendida. Es como el costo de dejar de llevar suficiente. Digamos que ustedes solo compran 50 y sus clientes les exigen, ustedes tienen una demanda de 70, ¿verdad? Hay 20 unidades que ya no vendieron. Entonces, por cada una de esas unidades, ustedes podrían haber obtenido una ganancia de $1.75, que ya no la van a poder percibir porque no llevaron suficiente producto. Entonces, ese 1.75 es un costo de oportunidad, dinero que pudieron haber ganado, pero que no ganaron porque no se abastecieron lo suficiente. So that's the idea, okay? Now, in cost of overage, I believe that this is easy to understand. It's pretty much what you lost, given that you had too much inventory. So the cost of overage would be, okay, the cost per unit, which is 25 cents, minus the salvage value per unit. The salvage value per unit is what you would obtain if you were to resell the items outside of the season where they are intended to be sold. In this particular exercise, apparently the items will not be sold at a lower price, but they will be given away for free. So the salvage value per unit would be $0 because you will not be able to recover that money that you invested. So that is 25 cents. So what does it mean? It means that for every sausage that you buy and yet that you are not able to sell because you overestimate your demand, you're going to be losing 25 cents. Okay. Which is pretty much what you invested in buying the sausage in the first place. Okay, I hope that that is clear. So now that we have calculated those two costs, the next step would be to estimate the service level that you need to cover given these costs, okay? That service level is a probability that is calculated with this formula. So let me just take it over there. Okay, we have our two costs, right? We have, let me just paste this, bring with us so we don't lose track of it. Wait a minute. Okay, so we have this information that we just calculated. Okay, it's like this. So let us input this into the formula. And this is 1.75 divided by 1.75 plus 0.25. Okay. Okay. This would be 1.75 divided by divided by 2, right? Okay, let's see how much that is. Let me just do the calculation really quick. 0.875 or, I'm sorry that this is so messed up, or 87.5%. So what does it mean? What does this number mean? It means that in order for you not to have excessive costs related to stock out or over estimation of demand, you should have or offer to your customers a service level equal to 87.5% or more than this. Because if you have a service level that is lower than this, then these costs would be increasing. Okay, the total, because this is if you realize these values are cost per unit. Okay, because if you see the calculation, is sale price per unit minus cost per unit. These are unit prices, unit costs, okay? So what you try to do is that you try to have a service level that will allow you to have not those many units because the total cost of shortage would be the multiplication of this by the number of units that you didn't sell because you didn't have enough inventory, or the total cost of overage would be this unit price by the total amount of leftovers that you had at the end of the period, right? So by having a service level equal or over this amount, you minimize those quantities, the number of units in stockout and the number of units in overestimation. So the total cost that you have at the end of the period is minimal. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so now, uh, how much then is that we have to order if we must assure a service level of 87.5%? So the order quantity in these inventory models, okay, is estimated. Let me just grab the formula. By this, okay? Because the question of the exercise was, given these costs and everything, how much sausages you must buy for the next season. So that amount would be given by this value that I'm going to name Q instead of ROP because it might cause further confusion. So it's the expected demand during the lead time plus the safety stock. Now, if we were to work this formula a little bit more, the expected demand during the lead time would be average demand multiplied by the lead time plus the safety stock, that is C, multiplied by the standard deviation of demand during lead time. Okay, Okay, so the average demand, we know it because we know that it is expected that you will be selling 190 sausages. Okay, you have that, uh, but you don't have the safety stock. Okay, but to calculate the safety stock, you need the standard deviation of the demand and C. The C value, you can calculate it by knowing the service level that you must offer to your customer. So this is why we make this calculation first before we start estimating this. Okay. Now, let me just, here I think I'm going to be a little bit more specific because now we are going to define during, I'm going to change this and I'm going to name it the expected demand during the season. So you need to know historically during the period of time that you are considering to sell those units, which in this case is a full season, how much have you sold in the past and how much has been the standard deviation of the demand in that season? Okay, so here you have both information. Let us fill it out. So reading the exercise, you know that in average you have sold 190 units during the season. So that would be this first part. Average demand during the season, 190 units. Okay. Now, what else do we know? The C value, we don't know it yet, but we can estimate it with this service level. And the standard deviation of the sausages during the football season, we know it, which is 34. Okay. So 34. Okay. So all we need to calculate now are units, right? It's the C value. Okay. What is the C value that allows you to have a service level of 87.5%? Now, we have done this already when we were working on the on the P model. We had to calculate C values for the determining inventory sizes. Okay, so it's not new for us. Let me show you again how you do that in Excel. Well, in this case, it would be in Google Docs. Just give me a moment so I can share my screen with you. Okay. Okay, so this is where we are going to do that. You can do it also using a probability table, but this is easier. So you know that you need to have a service level of 87.5% is what you calculated at the beginning. So what you are going to do is that you're going to use the formula normal inverse, which is this one, which is the same, okay? And you need to know the probability, which in this case is 0.875, right? You need to know the mean of the variable, but in this case, this in order to, if you remember, when we took this information from the table, we had the standardized form of the normal curve. So here, just don't complicate yourself. You are going to always enter a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. This is the standardized normal distribution, is the one, the same that is used on the tables, the probability tables, okay? So just enter here your service level, then mean 0 and standard deviation 1. Okay, that is what you have to do if you want to calculate the C with this. I'm going to show you how to do it with a probability table as well, just for you to know both ways, okay? So here you have a C value of 1.15, okay? That corresponds to a probability in a normal distribution of 87.5%. Let us calculate, or let us see how you would find this in a normal distribution table. Let me just do a screenshot. Okay, so we found it with the formula, right? This is, if you realize, the standard normal distribution in its standard form. That means a normal curve, I'm sorry, that has a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. This is why here in the formula, in the mean, which is the first value you add after the service level, I added 0. Okay, and then a standard deviation 1. So here, if you were to use the table, you will need to find the probability, because this is the cumulative probability. You would need to find the probability of 87.5%. So 87.5%, 87.49. If you see, the closest value is this one, right? That is 1.1. 0.5, 1.15, right? Because it's 1.1 plus the value that it's up here, right? So it's it's this one, this one, this one. So if you go up, it's 0.05, and if you go left, it's 1.1. So it would be 1.15, which is very close to what we have gotten using the formula. So you can do it both ways. Just find here the closest value to the service level that you need. In our case, it was 0.875. So this is the closest. It's 1.15. Okay. So then we come back to our exercise. Okay. And now you have the C value that you were missing. And we can calculate the Q. So let me do that quickly. Okay. So that would give us a value of, just make sure that I did it right, 229.1. Okay. So what does this mean? It means that if you want to minimize the total cost related to the opportunity of not having enough to sell and buying too much, you would need to order 229 units, okay? That would minimize your total cost related to the inventory. That would be equal to having a service level of 87.5%. Okay, so this would be the solution. You would have to order this amount, okay? All right, good. Now, this service level is pretty much the probability of not being left out without inventory, okay? Now, if you see here, the cost of shortage is much higher than the cost of overage, okay? Because you lose more profit if you have not enough units and the customer wants more than what you lose if you overestimate. So the service level, remember, is the probability of having inventory when a customer requests it. So here what you are doing is that you are calculating a service level that would allow you to minimize the total cost of overage and shortage. Okay, so you order an amount with a minimum of this service level. If you order less than this, what is going to happen is that your costs are going to be increasing, because most likely you will offer less than what the customers historically expect. So this is that uh, historically your customers will request you like an 87.5% service level, and you offer them less. What is going to happen? You are going to lose sales because you're not going to have enough inventory. So here you make sure that you have at least the service level they expect, so you don't increase your this cost for shortage. Okay, so that's the idea, and this is the amount that you should order. All right. Okay, so let us stop here now because today's class is short. We will continue on this topic on the next one. I hope that you can see this video later on. I'm going to upload the presentation for you as well, and I will be seeing you on next Tuesday. Thank you very much. Don't forget to do the homework for this weekend, and I hope you have a good day. Bye bye. Thank you.